Ooh, that's really up close. That's noise. Did you want to sharpen this, Jason, on the side or something?
I was just getting the zoom in feature figured out. Microphones are live all day. Did you move?
No. Oh. It was over here. But
Well, I haven't moved the camera. So
you want me to go this way then?
just slide the whole cutting board over just a little bit.
Oh, okay. There we go. Okay.
17 viewing.
Nice.
That's awesome. You guys ready to go?
Hello, everybody. Doug Anderson, Food and Beverage Manager at Seven Summits Lodge here with Chef Dino Cruz. He's going to be doing a knife sharpening display today, or a tutorial on how to get your knives sharpened. We'll turn it over to the chef here. Enjoy. Any questions, feel free to type in the chat box there, and we'll get them answered for you. Enjoy. Okay, so today we are going to sharpen my knife, actually, because it needs it. So just by chance that we are also doing a video. So kill two birds with one stone. No pun intended, because we have a whetstone. So usually at home, your home knives, you'd probably only need to sharpen it twice a year. Usually at home, I sharpen my knives right before the holidays because I know I'm going to be doing a lot of cooking during that time. So that's a good a reminder. And then again in the summertime sometime. So really it's because I sharpen this knife. I use it every day here at work, and I'd say about once a month I'm hitting it with the whetstone. So pretty basic. I believe this is like $35–40 on Amazon, and Jason bought it for us here. It comes with 3 different grades. So we have a fine grade, which is usually a different color, and then we have a medium and a coarse. So depending on how dull your knives are at home, on where you should start. But I do always like to start on the coarse, just being a little extra careful with it. So we're on the coarse right now. I'm going to do about 30 strokes on each side per level of stone, per level of coarseness or smoothness. And then we're using a little bit of mineral oil, just a little bit of mineral oil there. I'm going to kind of just use my finger and rub it on there like that. Take my knife. So as you guys can see, the blade here, can we do a little close up here? If you can see like how the blade is just literally probably like a 1/4 inch. Okay. So you're really looking just to sharpen that part right down there, kind of right underneath my fingernail there. Anything up here, your potential is scratching your knife. As you can see, there's a little bit of scratches on. I've had this knife for almost close to 2 years. There's a little bit of scratch going on here. But really, you're just looking to sharpen that little teeny bit right there. So we're talking about a 15 to 20 degree angle. And I'm left-handed, so it might look a little different on the camera. But I start from the base, work to the top. So it's kind of like a dragging motion. So again, keeping in mind that anything greater than a 20-degree angle, you're going to end up potentially scratching your really nice knife here. So we're going to really start slow at first just to kind of get the feel of it. We're going to start at the base, and you're going to drag it down like that. Same way here. I don't know if my hand's in the way there, but let's try it again. So I'm going to, it's like a dragging motion. Start on one end with your index finger, just kind of guiding it along, trying to maintain the even. And then by the time the tip is reached, you should be towards the end there. So kind of like that. Okay. So obviously this is something that's gonna, the more practice, the better you're gonna be able to do it. But you always just want to, starting out, what you want to really focus on is the angle and making sure that you have even pressure going down all the way across, because you don't want it to be sharper on one side or the front side or the back side. So you always want to maintain a slight pressure with your index. This is what I do anyway. I don't know how others do it, but so I just start on the back end, a little bit of pressure there, curve it around. Okay, and as you're able to go faster, it becomes a little bit smoother and kind of like more of a mechanical motion here. Just always maintaining that angle, dragging the knife down, a little bit of pressure on there. Okay. Just keep in mind, you have to make sure the whole blade is getting touched up all the way to the end. It's almost like a pulling motion. You're pulling it towards you as you are gliding it down. So you're slightly pulling, you're gliding down, pressure on the blade. Okay. So you don't have to go super fast, but as long as you're maintaining contact with the blade the entire time, all the way throughout, even pressure, 15 to 20 degree angle. Okay. So you're getting some metal shavings on there, so make sure, you give your knife a good cleaning before use. And this is something you don't want to do too often because, it eats away at the blade. So for me, once a month is pretty good. Okay, so you should be able to, at this point, you should be able to see a nice thin layer of a little bit of metal shavings evenly down the blade there. Inspect for scratches, just to make sure you're doing it at the right angle. If you're doing it at the right angle, you will see that the oil and a little bit of the shavings is only touching that little part of the blade that I've been talking about. So as you can see, I can kind of tell there's a little bit less oil and shavings on this side. So I'm going to make sure I'm really getting that back part there, starting out. Okay. Yes. I'll take questions.
Couple questions, Dino, from the huge crowd you have online right now. So one is, how many strokes on each side?
Well, at this point, I'm going to do about 30 on each side. Really depends on how dull your knife is. Like if you've never done it before, you've had the knife for years, it's going to take a little bit more work. Really, it's based on how dull your knife is. But to be on the safe side, really 30, 45 on each grade is probably good, especially if you're just starting out, because you're not really going to get it at the right angle right away. So out of those 30 to 45 strokes you're going to do on each side, as a beginner, hopefully you're going to have 30 good strokes out of that 45. But that's what I'm doing.
Second question.
Yes.
And
Second
then,
question. Yes.
how does this method compare to the type of sharpener that you slide the knife through?
Oh yeah, those are. I would never use that on my knives at all, unless it's like. So here we have an example of like a $10 knife, right? So this is our house knives. This is something that you could potentially use the handheld. We don't have that in the kitchen, so I couldn't really grab it and show you guys, but it is a handheld one where you drag the blade across, and it really just eats the knife, and the length of use you're going to be able to have with that knife is going to be drastically shortened because you're taking off a lot of metal in there. I would never like use that on a knife like this. You know, like this is a Shin. This is a it's a pretty nice knife. I love it. But maybe with this $10 knife, potentially, if let's say you're going to do 50 pounds of onions and you don't really have time to, you spend time with this. But again, it's nothing that I would recommend using. I'd say the last time I used it was when I was a prep cook in like 1998. Because that's how I was taught at first, and I didn't really know any better. But yeah, so you definitely don't want to use anything like that on your good house knives. Okay. Any more questions right now?
What is the name of the thing you're sharpening the knives on? What do you call that thing?
It's called a stone. It's called a sharpening stone. This one is a Mundial brand. Let me a little bit of flour on there. So this is the brand that Jason got me. It was like $45. It's really just a sharpening stone. It comes with its own little bit of mineral oil to use, which should be plenty for home use. But yeah, that's what it is. Sometimes it's called a whetstone.
Another question. I would not want to learn or practice on an expensive knife. Is a cheap knife okay to use, and would learning properly and give it the same effect?
Oh yeah, definitely. So if you do have, like I said, these $10 knives, it'd be perfect. Just if you've never done this before, definitely perfect for one of these knives before you work your way up to your fancy show knives. This is definitely a great practice knife. As you can see, the blade's a little bit different on this one, so you have a little bit more freedom to kind of mess up on the angles a little bit there. So you can see the thinness of this. This is like really, this is almost an inch, but at least a half inch. So there's more room for error when you're hitting that angle. So scratching it won't be that big an issue, right? And then if you go to this knife, you can see that it's literally just a little teeny bit right on the very edge there. So there's less room for error. So that's a great question. I would definitely start out with one of these if you have never done it before. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the medium course. We're going to move along a little bit quicker now. We'll also take more questions if there are any. So I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of the mineral oil. Sometimes I just catch it with the other container here. So this is our medium. Okay, same kind of thing. It shouldn't make it should make a less of a grinding noise though, because it's a little bit smoother, but it's still, again, maintaining that even pressure, because if you're putting too much pressure on one end, the front end or the back end, it's not going to be even as far as the sharpness. Like you'll be like, hey, the back end of my knife is sharper than the front end. You do tend to use this half way more than this back half, just by nature, you know. So that's kind of important to know, that just for trying to make your blade as even as possible.
Few questions, Dino, while you're getting caught up with that knife here.
Okay.
Can you use any other type of oil?
I only use mineral oil, but honestly, maybe like vegetable oil should work. Something obviously food-based. So, I wouldn't use like anything that you would use on like a car or anything like that. It has to be like a food-based oil. But mineral oil is the go-to. Second is probably just salad oil. And if anything, water actually works too. Sometimes I use water. Just kind of have it, just keeping it wet, you know, kind of like I think that's why it's called a whetstone as well. But any of those work as long as it's food-based, food grade safety. Okay.
Some knife sets come with a sharpening rod. Are you going to show us how to use one of those?
Oh yeah, actually, if Doug's good, Doug, can you grab both of them, please? Grab both of them. Huh? Okay, so I'm almost there with this one. Also, as you get towards the end, you can kind of hear it have less of a grinding noise. That means you're there for the most part, just because it'll only grind as much at that angle. If it keeps grinding for a long time, then your angle is getting greater, and that's probably not a good thing, because at some point it needs to the sound of the grind needs to be smoother and smoother. Okay, that's feeling pretty good there. And then so this is the two different ones. We have a diamond and we have a steel. So really just your preference. I like to use the diamond. This is the diamond. It's probably more for like lighter knives, I would say. And then the steel is for all around use. So if you were to just pick one, let's say you only wanted one, you don't need two different kinds. Wait, is this showing up there? Oh, there it goes. If you only want one in your household, this is going to be the one, the heavy set steel one. And we'll get to that. I don't want to hit up my knives with these yet, because I have to finish it up on the fine grind here on the whetstone. So we'll do that real quick. Okay. As you can see, we've put this to good use. Okay, and this is the last of the stones. Some stones, though, you can buy where it's just a block like this, and it'll have two sides. One is fine, one is coarse. Sometimes that's really all you need. Those are going to be significantly less expensive. So that's another option there. Okay, so we're going to do the fine. I'm going to go ahead and wipe the blade off a little bit, get some of that metal shavings off of there. And then we're going to do the same thing real fast. So as you can see, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's more of a smooth sound. Because at this point, you're just kind of lining it up now. Hopefully it's sharp enough. And again, pressure towards the end there. I know I'm left-handed, so it might be a little weird, but it's all the same technique, from the back to the front, back to the front, and you're kind of pulling it towards you, like that. I can be like overly exaggerating the movement like that. So you can just pulling it towards you, even pressure. And you're always making that slicing motion like that, because you need to drag the blade across to there. Okay, so keep that in mind, dragging the blade across, dragging the blade across. Okay. And then this guy here, I'm going to go ahead and use this one. It's all pretty much the same technique, just different material. So as you can see, there's a nice little round on the bottom here of both of these. That's kind of a guide for the angle that you're going to want to have your knife in. So if you look at it that way, you don't want you're going to use this as a guide, and then that you don't want to go further out than that. Okay, so that should be about 15, 20 degree angle there. Just not going past the edge of that. You can either go that way, which I'm a little uncomfortable doing it this way. This is how I first started doing it back in the day, but now I go towards me. which seems to be a little bit more comfortable for me. So whatever way is more comfortable for you. At first, this way was not comfortable for me. But really that was about it, about 10 strokes on each side. Or like I said, like you can go like that, but I'm a little slow doing it this way now because I haven't done it this way in years, but I used to be able to go just like that too. So that's that. We're gonna do a couple quick knife techniques a little bit just to kind of show you guys. I'm gonna wipe my cutting board, make sure there's no. Any questions at this point? Okay, so I'm just gonna demonstrate.
Dino, I got one.
Okay.
So your second movement looks as if it's not following the same motion as the first, like against the grain. Am I not seeing this properly?
As far as going this way and going that way?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, this way, if you're talking about the guide here, it's kind of like has that guide, and I am a little uncomfortable doing it this way, but as long as you're not going like that, so you got to make sure it's even to that, okay? Right? So I'm a little uncomfortable again, like I said, but this way, it's a little different, but it's still not going past. It's the same concept because it's still not going like that. It's still this way. You just kind of have to line it up a little bit differently, but it's the same angle. It just looks different because you're coming in and then you're going out. But no matter what, you're always starting from the back blade. Always the back blade first, no matter what. Did I answer that question, I hope? It's just a little, like I said, it's a little different going this way. You still want to maintain, I'm pointing the blade at my face here, but you always want to maintain not going past there. Same concept this way, just a different look. Okay, we're going to do a couple quick things. An onion, really simple. Just take the top off here. Okay. So I'm going to do a quick mince on the onion. It's kind of nice having my knife all sharp now. But really the fastest way to mince an onion, especially if you have to do like 20 pounds of it, like we do here at work, you take your knife and you just slice right through, but not finishing the slice. So making sure the onion is still connected. If we can get a little zoom on that. So you're still making sure that the onion is connected while you're slicing. Okay. Okay, I'm going to do it again with this one. So we have the onion there. I'm waiting for it to get a little better on there we go. So just slicing it and keeping it together still. Okay. So as you guys can see, it's still together at the end there. Then I'm going to do the slicing it this way. Okay. So now that we have that, then we can just keeping our fingers tucked in, the thumb tucked in. I was always taught to not lift the blade above the second knuckle. So you always want it to be right here. So if you never go above the second knuckle, you should be okay. So you always want to be right here, kind of like resting on the knuckle, I believe. Maybe a little bit lower. So this way?
Or the other side.
Other way?
Yeah.
Okay. So, this camera's reading me out. Okay, so just fingers tucked, thumb tucked in. Always kind of like you always have this straight barrier. You'll see this put into use when I'm slicing the mushrooms here in a minute. But really, just always keeping it level, keeping this part level. And you should never, honestly, you should never cut yourself if you're always holding it like this. As long as you're not lifting it too high. Okay, so again, fingers curled. It's like you don't go higher than that really. You don't ever want to go above the knuckle there. So like right here, kind of nice resting spot. And then it just comes right and dices itself for you. So that's kind of like the cool part, right? So immediately we have a dice instead of having something like this, and then you're like, oh, you're like chopping it all over as you're crying the whole time, right? So that definitely takes more time to do, and more onion juices are going to go in the air, and more tears are going to flow. But that's it. So keeping it together. Again, we have that together at the end. We slice it this way. Fingers tucked in, thumb tucked in. We're just going to instantly dice it there. We don't have to spend any more time than that. Done. All right. That's a really fast way to do it. Okay. We're going to go to the next thing. We're going to do bell pepper. So there's a couple ways I've done bell peppers that I like to do personally. So here's a bell pepper. So one is slicing it right here and then rolling it as you slice it, looking at the inside, making sure you have the bell pepper in there. And you should be left with that. Okay. And if you have a little bit here, go ahead and use that. We don't want to waste that. So as you can see, oops, I got to go lower. As you can see, it's pretty good there. So I just did the old slice on one side, drag it all the way around, and we have a whole bell pepper. The one I like to do is this one where you just quarter it. So you just kind of hold it up right here, making sure it's stable base, and you're just going to slice it there, and then lay down, finish the four corners there, and a little bit of seed there. So that's another way to do it. Let me move it here so you guys can see. So you have your two different options, right? And now we're going to go ahead and do a brunoise, which is like a fine mince with these bell peppers. So we're going to chop. This is what I would use for crab cakes. Like I would do a brunoise of bell peppers. That way the bell peppers are melting in the crab cake instead of like being maybe slightly crunchy or anything like that. You want it to somehow melt into the crab cake. And that's where our brunoise knife cut's going to come in. So we're really just going to take the flesh out. So we just took the flesh out. That's pretty much what we're going to do. We're going to take the knife, okay, flat, low pressure. Keep an eye on those fingers. And as you're kind of slicing down, it should just give you a little bit of the flesh there. But there's a little bit of white here still. So you kind of, so I know we're going to waste a lot, but this is honestly for crab cakes though. So obviously, there's a little bit of a high waste with this because, in normal cooking, you can probably use that, right? I mean, why not? But if we're trying to be specific on our knife cuts and making sure it's a technical brunoise here, and it's going to be for our crab cakes. So we want to go all out on our crab cakes. So again, you're looking for a level, thin piece of bell pepper. So as you can see, there's still flesh coming out. But that's about it. So we have a nice thin bell pepper now, right?
Hey,
yes.
Dino, before you get too deep into that, question coming from online here. Can you show us how to properly hold the knife, the position of your thumb and fingers?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. I totally didn't even think about that. Again, so first you start with the weight of the knife. Like, do you prefer a heavier knife? Do you prefer a lighter knife? I'd say mine is more of a medium. With that in mind, really how you hold it is probably going to change a little bit on how light it is. But for the basic part, this is a pretty average medium weight knife. Usually German knives are heavier and Japanese knives are lighter. So that's just something you want to keep in mind there. So really, now that I come to think about it, I'm trying to see how I hold it. But really I have my thumb, there we go. So I'm kind of holding it like that. And then on the other side, I have my thumb for support. So it's kind of like that. That's a good angle there, huh? So thumb in, pressure, holding it steady. And then, let's see, like that. So, yeah, that is correct. As long as you're staying on the handle, I kind of like to hog the handle a little bit and go a little bit, with my thumb right there sometimes. But really, I would say the proper way is really, probably don't want to get it on the metal. So, connection lost. Connection lost. It froze. Okay, sorry about that. It froze. But yeah, so really that's about it. So for like let's say this knife, it's longer. So this one's I believe a 12-inch. No, this is a 10-inch. And mine is an 8. So this is a 10. So it's a longer blade. So it's a little bit lighter too. So this one, I'm still going to hold it the same. And then as you can see, the thickness of the blade here compared to this one. Let's see, we have that much more blade to work with, or that much more knife to work with. So that's also going to affect how you're holding it, because when you go down, it's gonna immediately kick back up because the blade's a little bit wider. But for the most part, really just your thumb there and nice grip on there. All right, so back to the brunoise. We got our bell pepper here. So we're just gonna really make thin strips out of it. So again, as you're watching here, my fingers are tucked in, thumbs tucked in, and then the blade is not going above the second knuckle at all. So we have some nice not a julienne, because this is a little bit too long. So we have nice strips there, and we're gonna go ahead and mince it down again, keeping the, really it's important, just like, that's gonna be your guide, that flat, nice flat space there. That's gonna be your guide into like really preventing cuts, because as long as that's always even with the knife, there's really no way you can cut yourself as long as it's always even with the knife and you don't go too high. So like right there. So again, we're just gonna brunoise like that, keeping your fingers tucked in. Okay, I'm just trying to do it right there. So it's really, really nice to get that super tiny mince there. So this is what I would do for crab cakes for sure. All right, let's try that again. So this time we're gonna do a julienne. So we're gonna julienne about 2 inches length. So we cut it in half. We're just gonna do sticks out of it. Okay, so we have that. Okay, we have that. All right, next, we're almost done here. We're gonna do a chiffonade. So a chiffonade is like a shred. I know, really, sometimes you have to roll it all up and spend all this time rolling it up. But honestly, I don't really do the roll up part. I just kind of crumple it all up, and then just again focus on the resting the knife over here, not going above the angle, and just kind of really just shredding it. As you need to be able to feel your fingers as you're doing that. So, is the resolution really bad?
No, it's good.
Okay. So again, I just took a big thing of spinach here, handful, just kind of did that. Gonna do that, and then really just slicing it. And like I'm trying to watch myself as I'm doing it, and you just really want to make sure that the blade has contact with that resting area of your fingers there. That's how I'm able to do it without looking, but I definitely wouldn't suggest anyone to do that. Okay, one more time. Get just a bunch of spinach here, crumple it up, start kind of have that starting motion there, and again, it's slicing. I'm gonna go a little slower. That way, it's kind of like, so I can feel the blade just against my fingers the whole time. Okay. All right, and that is our chiffonade. Okay, nice shredded. just a fancy term. Clear up our board a little bit here. A couple more things, the mushroom. So we have a mushroom. So I love doing mushrooms. So really, for a beginner, it kind of rolls around a little bit there. So you always kind of want to slice off a little bit, and then it creates that base. So now you're kind of more stable. So it doesn't roll on as much, which is a little bit safer, I would say. So this way you can kind of like, oh, whoops, it rolled around, you know? So just cut that little piece off, use that flat surface as a stabilizer. And then, again, same concept. You have this part as you're resting. And, okay? So you can go, right? So obviously you're going to start out a little bit slower. So let's do that. Create that base. But as you can see, it's really, honestly, it's really rubbing on my fingers the whole time. And that kind of acts as a guide. Okay. So there's that. So if you had to slice a 10-pound flat of mushrooms, you know, so that's how you're going to be able to get faster on that, just by practicing. And then we're almost done. So we have to do a zucchini. Let's do a zucchini. Maybe we'll just do like a bâtonnet, which is kind of like a cube stick. I would probably just cut this into 3. And then again, anytime you slice something, if you can find the stable part of it. So instead of slicing it this way where it kind of rolls around, I can either do that, right, and then have that stable, so it doesn't move around, or I can go this way, and it's already pretty set, doesn't really roll around there. So either way, let's probably go this way, and you're just gonna slice it there. And then once you have your wide, that's when you can, okay, so kind of a bâtonnet there. So it's a little bit different than a julienne. So it's more of like a French fry. I would say a French fry is, not the steak fries, but like the regular fries is a bâtonnet cut. All right, and then allumé is the last one. It's probably like a julienne, but it's like a in between. I would say it's in between a chiffonade and a julienne. So allumé is kind of like shoestring fries, if you want to look at it that way. So you have your, so it looks like a julienne, but a little bit thinner. And that's it. So do we have any questions right now?
Yeah, there's one question on here, Dino. Tricky one that we all have experienced at some point. What would you do with carrots? How would you cut up carrots in that regard? What's the best way to do that?
Oh, so let's pretend this is a carrot. We only have the matchstick carrots right now for our green salad because we have a limited menu. So I honestly do not have whole carrots back there. We have chopped carrots back there already. I know it's kind of cheating, but so let's pretend this is a carrot. So again, after you're gonna peel it, right? Actually, let's go ahead and peel it. So we can kind of make it like a cucumber, like if it was a cucumber or something. Right? So it kind of looks cool. Let's pretend it's a carrot. You're still going to want to, you always want to start with making the carrot smaller, into smaller pieces. It's always a little harder to work with a long carrot. A big carrot, you're kind of like, the knife is only so big. So you really just want to go ahead and, after you peel it, is like get it to a comfortable size where you can chop it, which is probably going to be about right here. So that's going to be whatever you feel comfortable with. If you feel comfortable just slicing in half and then having half of a length. But as I would say for starters, really just something you're comfortable with. So that's a good size there. So that's a carrot. And again, if it's a carrot, especially, it likes to roll around. Carrots love to roll around while you're slicing it. So this is definitely going to be the most important thing with a carrot, is slicing the initial side there and then having that flat, stable surface So again, just pretend it's a carrot, but the most important thing is slicing it to the size that you're comfortable with. So it looks like it's about 1/3 of the length of my knife there. So that's something that's pretty good. And then immediately you create a stable side that you can rest on. Because like I said, carrots are pretty notorious for shooting out of the cutting board. I've seen it. All right, so now that you got stable, same kind of thing. You're gonna create the thin slices here. So however way you want to do these carrots, but again, just as long as you're slicing it to the size that you're comfortable with and creating that flat surface to where it doesn't roll around on you. And those are really just the two safety pointers I got. Okay, if there are no more questions, I think that's about it. I'm going to enjoy using my nicely sharpened knife for a few weeks, and then I'll have to do it again soon. But thank you for joining us. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. See you again next week. Was that okay?